Hello everyone, how are we doing? Welcome on back to Dicebreaker, where today we're doing something a little bit different than the regular fare. It's nice and cozy, as you can see. I'm just chilling on my laptop because we're going to be looking at some of the cool, some of the exciting, some of the beautiful, some of the fantastic tabletop projects that are going to be crowdfunded as part of Zine Month 2023, also as part of Zine Quest, if you're over on Kickstarter. For those who are not aware, Zine Month / Zine Quest is something that's been running for a few years now. It is essentially a sort of community-led, community-focused month of crowdfunding in which everyone tries to put out something small, something that is tabletop related. I've got the official sort of like I guess you'd call them guidelines. That is the word they use, actually. I've got the official guidelines from Zine Month, but obviously Zine Quest is slightly different. But it's a continuation of that. But essentially, you are releasing a tabletop role-playing game or adjacent or equivalent. It could be a game in itself. It could be a hack of something that already exists. It could be a module. Could be characters. Could be a setting. It could also be some kind of, essay or kind of strange art project around the themes. But the main thing is that it's related to tabletop RPGs in some way. It's released or it's seeking funding within the month of February, in this case 2023. Nothing is perfect bound to hardcover, just it's zines. If you're not familiar with a zine, it's a magazine. That's where the word comes from. So, like soft cover, saddle stitched, maybe, you might even do like a sort of trifold or something like that. But essentially very simple kind of paper constructs and of course digital products as well. And then roughly they look for about A5 in dimension because that's kind of the de jour setup for these books. But there is a little bit of like history behind this, which is why I'm currently looking at two different websites. So you can see we've got Zine Month. We've also got Zine Quest on Kickstarter. So Kickstarter used to be the kind of home of Zine Quest or Zine Month, depending on which one you want to look at it. But it wasn't necessarily Kickstarter's own thing that they owned. It was more of a sort of community project that they kind of put some backing behind. But there was a year, I believe 2 years ago, when Kickstarter essentially tried to move into a kind of like crypto market. All of their like weird stuff that they were doing with like NFTs and stuff like that kind of put a sour taste in a lot of designers' mouths. They didn't want to really be associated with it anymore. But also in general, for a while, Kickstarter has had like a pretty big monopoly on the kind of crowd-funded tabletop space. It's difficult to get things funded outside of Kickstarter a lot of the time. So there was a concerted effort from indie devs to move outside of Kickstarter. It's not necessarily the case that you're physically unable to go on there anymore, but people are looking at different things. You're going to see a lot of projects from crowdfunded this year. You might be looking at things like Indiegogo or trying to remember if there is a specific tabletop one that a lot of board games use at the moment, which I can't remember the name of, but I'm sure it will come up. So yeah, this is Zine Quest 5. This is the 5th year it's run on Kickstarter, but also we've got Zine Quest 5, sorry, but this is also Zine Month 2023. So things are a little bit more spread out, but the general sense of community collaboration to do some cool TTRPG stuff is all well and good. So without further ado, let's look at some of the cool stuff that we've got going on this year. I have got a lot of tabs open. A lot of tabs. In fact, if I just sort of... Let me try and move this down. If you can see, I'm just going to shift my kind of cover over so you can see what I mean. This is just my initial setup, right? This is just some of the stuff that I've seen. I've also got a tweet thread that I put together so that people can show me things if maybe they're on Twitter but they're not as accessible on one of these platforms. So we've got a lot of stuff to look at, and we've got 2 hours to do it in. So it's going to be a nice, chill, relaxing afternoon. It's going to be very, very dangerous for your wallets. But at the same time, especially considering all the stuff that's happening with Dungeons & Dragons recently, with all the OGL nonsense and the general sort of monopoly that Hasbro has had in the space, this is yet another great example of a time in which you can sort of spread your you know, your funding for the hobby out, looking at alternative ways to bring some more economic growth to the TTRPG space. So let's have a little look. Pierre, I can't actually talk about my own projects, I'm afraid. I have made some RPGs in the past, but unfortunately, it's against our journalistic integrity to have to talk about it on this stream. But feel free to look at my Twitter. There's loads of stuff on my Twitter about it. So let's start with the first one, the one that we've been quite excited about on the website and on our Slack channel, which is Golf Quest. So this is one by a friend of the website. Anna has written for us before. They're a trans creator. You may know them from Delve, Apothecaria. They are very, very cool. Based out of Glasgow in the UK, and they've done a lot of cool things in the RPG space already. But this is her latest kind of outing in Zine Quest this year, which is Golf Quest, which is a comedy RPG / dexterity game about golfing through fantasy lands, playable solo or with friends. And the cool thing about this one is that if you were ever in school and you ever played a game where you get a pencil and you put the pencil on a piece of paper and then you kind of hold it vertically with the tip of your finger, and then you sort of flick the pencil like that so it pushes forward and draws a line, and that was the stroke of your golf. Pardon me. That was the stroke of your golf ball going down the course. That is exactly how this game works. So you will see. Let me try and find a visual example here. So obviously this is their funding goal, but you know, in this case, I would have my pencil set up here, I'd go like that, and then like that, and like that, and try to gradually get my way around the course. So it's kind of like playing crazy golf, but on a piece of paper, which is really, really cute, really fun. I remember playing it in school. And it is very, very interesting to see that there is an RPG version coming out. So Golf Quest is a solo or multiplayer tabletop game that blends role-playing and dexterity around a series of fantastic golf courses and ridiculous characters. The meat of the game is the golfing, which is done by placing your finger on top of a pencil and guiding it as it tips, marking the page with your stroke. Where your line ends is where your ball ends up, and where you take your next stroke from. Simple. Until you come across the various hazards and obstacles that await you. Around this dexterity challenge lies the clubhouse, where you have the chance to play out hilarious rivalries, affairs, friendships and dramas with your friends and generated NPCs as you face random events, purchase helpful powers for the next hole, and sabotage whoever stands in your way. So it sounds like it's kind of a fun mashup of kind of like sports anime style RPGs mixed with like a mini game in the middle centered around your actual golfing. I absolutely adore RPGs that just do wacky things with their mechanics. One thing that I kind of look for when I'm excited about projects personally is not just things that are like, here's this cool setting that we're doing, but you know, it's quite established mechanics, but here's something that we're doing that no one's ever done before. Like this is like a completely new way to think about how to play RPGs, because RPGs as a space are essentially just like this melting pot of so many different ideas. Like, what is an RPG is such a difficult question to answer, you know, in the same way that what is a game is in the first place, because there are so many fantastic ways in which you can approach role-playing, and I love seeing devs who are excited about and willing to do something just completely different with their games. So this is a great start for me. The kind of like wacky nature of it, the fun, goofy art style, it's really lovely. It's got this nice sort of hand-drawn kind of vibe to it, which you'll be familiar with from Anna's work before. P.S. says Anna Blackwell is amazing. Love her designs, and she's a nice person. Met her at Dragon Meet 2021. And BMD Nerd says, is this a Kickstarter browse stream? I can get with this. Angel Beat says, what is an RPG? A miserable little pile of dice rolls. That's the point though, Angel Beat. You got games in which you don't even roll dice. You got games in which you don't even play a character. Like, it's such a breeding ground for completely new ways of thinking about play, which is why RPGs are so special to me, and to a lot of people, I think. But we've got some cool stretch goals. We got NPC art and custom scorecards and things like that coming up for this one. This is currently sat just under its initial pledging goal with 12 days to go. And that is Golf Quest on Kickstarter by Anna Blackwell. So give that one a little look. There's some more information about shipping and environmental stuff and all that bit, but you can have a look of that yourself. Already got 125 backers, so that could be you as well. Right. Moving through the tabs that we've already set up, we're going to go a little bit different. So, as you can see, this is our first one off of Kickstarter. This is Crowdfunder, which is, I've literally not heard of this platform until today. So, that goes to show how on the beat I am, apparently. But this is a sort of new avenue for people to explore for crowdfunding their games, which is always good. Like I said, Monopoly's bad, and it's good to have other options. So, this is Necromech Symphysis, a bone punk RPG about ghosts piloting mechs via possession. Is that not just what humans are? You know? Is that not just the human experience? But yeah, this sounds sick. Sounds metal as hell. Let's have a little look. This is by Thick Thief Games, based out of Huntsville in the US. The rise of humanity from the ashes of a fallen earth. God abandoned us and death embraced us. While the world burned, death lifted us up, gave us the power to raise our own dead, to fight back and defend what was left of humanity. And it was okay. Better than the alternative. A new religion arose, its necromantic high priests, both the progenitors of new life and the protectors of the scraps of human life left in this damned world. A grand fortress sepulchre rose from the ashes to shelter us. The work of fighting back against the angels of the apocalypse began. No time to worry if we were too late. The worm had turned. This has definitely got a, I would say, kind of Neon Genesis kind of vibe to it, mixed with some very cool art, very like necromantic. It's giving that kind of like old school fantasy vibe that you could see from the kind of OSR books. This is definitely giving me an OSR sort of feeling. I don't know if that's how the game's going to play out, but let's have a look at the system. So, we plan to make a 2-system game. So we plan to is interesting. So, it's always interesting to see what sort of stage of development some of these projects are at. I think most games traditionally, you'll have kind of like the idea is sketched out. It's like, it's maybe a Google Doc or something like that. And then once the crowdfunding hits, that's when the art starts pouring in, all that kind of stuff. So it's interesting to say we plan to have a 2-system game, which kind of implies that this is maybe in a bit more early stages. Cassie Mothwind has crowdfunded, just launched 6 months ago. Well, there you go. That's probably why I haven't heard of it. But like I said, great to have new alternatives. Always good to have a healthy ecosystem of different places for people to do things. And that's why I will say, so Zemo or Zinemonth.com, this is like a community-led project. This isn't, like it's, I don't know if you'd officially call it that, but it's like, it's not for profit. There's like a Discord, there's a website. You can freely submit your games to the sort of database. And it's very much a case of, it was kind of a thing that was put in place to make sure that there was still a sort of hub for all of these games outside of Kickstarter. Because that was one of the worries when, pulling away from Kickstarter was, well, how do we find each other? Everyone's on different websites. So Zine Month is a really important tool run by some very, very cool people, which is a very, very good tool to have if you are looking for all these games. So zinemonth.com, take a look. There is a link in the description below. So we plan to have a 2-system game very much inspired by Lancer. Ghost Mode will use the No Dice, No Master system to ramp up drama between battles. I like the idea that ghosts aren't able to interact with the physical world. It makes for interesting limitations. And I can't get the move, you can always spend a token to moan and rattle chains, out of my head. Mech Mode will use a D20 OSR system, there we go, for cool cinematic fights against the forces of heaven. I want to use Into the Odd because it's been my favourite ever since my buddy introduced me to it. We will include a campaign wherein you must defend Lady Death herself against the remaining 3 horsemen of the apocalypse. So this is really cool. It's really interesting. Again, this is what's lovely about Zine Month. It kind of pulls us away from the shining polish of, like these like very, very well put together campaigns that I think a lot of people are used to when it comes to, crowdfunding stuff. Like, there's 80 different pieces of art. We've got all of these collaborators. Everything is like ready to roll, which is great, of course, for these big projects. But it's also nice to see, people not being afraid to just go, hey, I've got this cool idea. I've paid for a bit of art. Back it so I can make it, So seeing this kind of like loose, kind of talkative style in the descriptors is really interesting. But Lancer is a great system. Lancer, if you've not used it, uses like a very simple D20 based system to do its like out of mech roleplay, but then combat is like a completely different game almost, because as you sort of enter into those mechs, the mechanics change with you. Cassie Mothman says they have a whole comic section on Crowdfunder. BMD Nerd says I frequent Kickstarter, Indiegogo, and Zoop. I've not heard of Zoop. There's so many now, which is great. Indie Byte says this is awesome. Thank you for doing this dive into the world of Zemo. Hope to see Dino Car. Oh, we've got Dino Car. Dino Car is coming up. Don't worry about that. That is in. And as well, if you want to show me something that you think is cool that I haven't mentioned yet, obviously give me some time because I've only done 2 so far. But yeah, if you've seen something really cool and you want to show it off to me, then let me know in the comments and I will add it on to the list. But yeah, this is looking great. This is Necromech Symphysis. Lovely art style, interesting ideas. I love the mix of Lancer with this kind of like gothic aesthetic. I think that's going to be really interesting. That is available on crowdfunder.com. Let's move on. So, we move on to the exact opposite of what I just said, with very, very polished games, which is what we've come to expect from World Champ. If you're not familiar with World Champ Games, I will just go to their homepage so we can show off some of the cool stuff that they do. World Champ Games run a lot of crowdfunding stuff for all of their games, and they are all very, very cool. So we've got Sweet Revenge at the moment, but we've also got Necronautilus, which came before that. We've got a guide to casting phantoms in the Revolution. They are always incredibly beautiful. Lots of like interesting design. I believe so. This is Adam Vass. Is that the name? Yeah, Adam Vass is the designer on this, but I believe it's like a 2-person team. Perhaps? Am I making that up? Thinking of something else? But this is also I believe the Brain Trust podcast, which is like a blah blah blah. What am I trying to say? This is the Brain Trust podcast, which is like a design space for RPG designers. There's like a really great Discord community. If you are interested in making games, you want to be around people who make games, it's an interesting place to go. So give it a look. But this is Sweet Revenge, which is a My Chemical Romance inspired RPG, which is very cool. I've seen Mark Kennedy in the chat is saying, "Are you only showing Zine Quest? Are you showing Zine Quest stuff? Sorry, or only Zemo?" I'm showing everything. We have just been on Kickstarter for the Golf Quest, I believe it was called, or is that not the video game? No, yeah, Golf Quest. We've just seen that from Anna Blackwell, but we've got loads of stuff coming up. So. Oh, thank you, Chris. Yeah, World Champ is a one-person operation. I think Adam Vass collaborates with a lot of people, though. That might be what I'm thinking of. But anyway, so sweet cheers for 3 cheers for Sweet Revenge, a tabletop role-playing game zine by Adam Vass / World Champ Game Company. Crawl through the circles of hell, demolishing any sorry soul in your way to face down the devil in Sweet Revenge by Adam Vass, funding February 2023. So, let's take a look at this. The devil... This is my only problem with these like very, very cursive fonts, is that I physically can't read them. The devil lives... The devil... lives me? Lives... Okay. Go to hell. You may be dead, but you're not quite done living. Journey downwards through spirals and circles of hell, laying waste to any demonic beast that stands in your way. Use the method you died from to inform your inventory and abilities on your violent quest. Count your sins. Give in to your darkest desires. Your sins are your stats. 7 of the deadliest, each with unique abilities that you can leverage to enact your will. The more corrupted your soul gets by the forces of hell, the stronger you become. This easy yet unique system combines familiar aspects of games like Down We Go and Bullet with an Axe. Confront your demons. Face off against a trove of fallen angels, giants, infernal beasts, and more on your way to confront the devil and demand your final wish be answered. If you don't succumb to your darkest traits along the way, that is. So, this is interesting because this game is actually funding on World Champ's own website. So this is not a crowdfunding site that we're looking at right now. World Champ have their own store, their own page. So it's kind of interesting that they're using that for their crowdfunding in this. It's very simple. it looks like you just buy a copy of the game. Again, there's that incredible visual art style that Adam Bass always brings to his games. Always really impressed with the aesthetics. But it looks like the crowdfunding is based on the amount of units that have been pushed, essentially. So at 100 units, it's considered funded. 300, we've got an additional hell circle, which I'm assuming is more explorable terrain for the players, and then at 500 units, there's an embroidered patch. So this is kind of an interesting way of doing things. You know, you don't need to use a crowdfunding website to do the crowdfunding model. I think a lot of the time people use these crowdfunding pages is because of the established audiences that are already on there. But at the same time, you know, it's a place where you don't have to be a web designer to be able to set it up. You know, you can just fill out a form and you're good to go. There's also the fact that, you know, with modern sort of like tech concerns, I think a lot of people like the idea of having a space for, you know, like things like crowdfunding on Kickstarter, for example, is better than a website that you've never heard of, right? So for a company like World Champ Games, where they've already kind of established themselves and they're like, okay, I know these guys are trying to scam me, but I think for an indie creator making their first ever game, there would always be that concern, probably, that there'll be a lack of trust in maybe that platform they set up. But as I said, it's always really cool to see different avenues for funding, different ways in which people can sort of push themselves online, and this is looking very beautiful and very cool. So available on a sliding pricing scale is also interesting. So February is a big month for zines, so pay what you feel is fair. The standard price is $15, but if you want to take a discount and spend that saved money on other games, go for it, no questions asked. If you're willing and able to support my further game design and publishing efforts, you can add a little extra and know it wildly appreciated. The digital edition will be distributed at no additional cost to everyone who purchases the physical edition, but it's not available on its own as part of this campaign. It will release in March/April 2023 on the itch.io page for World Champ Games to those only interested in digital files. So that's kind of interesting. This is very much, and I've seen a lot of people do this, where it's very easy to release a digital TTRPG, but the physical ones, you know, you've got that economy of scale where you can't just hope that you print enough books, or, you know, hope that you didn't print too many is even worse. You can't just sort of like print one whenever you feel like it. You need to do like batches, which is why these crowdfunding campaigns are really important for indie designers, because it gives them a space to say, okay, how many of you want this game? I'm going to give you a month to tell me, and then I will go print off that many, you know, because it means that they can actually adjust for pricings and all that kind of stuff. Mean that we're not bankrupting small businesses, which is bad. But expecting to ship in April, so nice and zippy on that one, just a couple of months before that is available. That is Sweet Revenge, a very cool looking RPG about delving into hell and punching the devil in the face. So if you want to give that a go, then head on over to worldchamp.io/Sweet Revenge. Let's see what we've got up next. This is Project Echo. This is also on crowdfunder.com. This one's been doing really well already. 16 days left on this, but they've also got already got 136% of their goal of 2.5k, currently at 3.3k. This is a solo time travel game by Elliot Davis, which is kind of interesting to me. This is, you know, a big month. There's a lot of games releasing, so I won't be able to show literally everything on this stream. But this is kind of like this little tagline, just as like a. Oh, we've also got a video. Interesting.
Project Echo. A game.
Pause the music.
Time travel and cosmic horror. A solo journaling game with a twist. You are an agent, nameless and dedicated, tasked with saving time itself from an all-consuming entity. Grab your planner, and don't forget your coin. You will discover anomalies signifying the decay of time, evidence of the entity's destruction and influence, and pieces of yourself you had forgotten existed. In the end, will you destroy the entity? Do you dare question the agency? Can you find yourself?
I want to point out, okay, I want this to also be a resource for people who are trying to get into this space as well, who want to create their first game. That was a really cool little trailer. And do you know how many assets they made for that? Visually, 1. That was the splash art. That was all they did. They took the splash art, they put some fun effects on, they did a little bit of voice acting on their microphone, and you know, like, you can learn how to do this stuff on YouTube in like a couple of hours. If you are putting yourself in a position where, you know, you're saying, okay, I want to make this game, I want people to play it. One of the worst things about that is that you essentially become a small business. You have to be your own marketing manager, you have to do PR, all that kind of stuff. But like, there are so many little tools like that that can just, you know, bring up the quality level of your pitch by so much in such a short time. And that was a fantastic example of it. So this is Project Echo. Sorry, I've got a very itchy nose because I think I've got Toto's hair up there. Project Echo, a solo time travel game. This is by Elliot Davis from New York. Time marches on, well, at least it used to. The game. So you work for the mysterious organization known as the Agency, tasked with tracking a time-consuming entity throughout an entire year. Project Echo is a game of time travel and cosmic horror, a solo journaling game with a twist. Time travel across the pages of a planner, writing in and marking up the dates based on prompts as you go. Ultimately, creating an artifact of your travels through time. I really love these solo journaling games, but you like they said, this artifact, you create this lovely object, this like memorial of what you played. You will discover anomalies signifying the decay of time, evidence of the entity's destruction and influence, and pieces of yourself that you had forgotten existed. Don't forget your coin. One flip may be the last line of defense between you and the fracturing of time itself. In the end, will you destroy the entity? Do you dare to question the agency? Can you find yourself? So this is a little mock-up of what the project's going to look like. So we've got a little rulebook here. And then I'm not sure if this is like an official planner that they're releasing, or if you just use like a generic sort of like year planner you can just buy online. Chris Longhurst says, I'm a sucker for time travel. Brodette says, oh no, my wallet. Reclaimed Dason says, it's Project Echo. For me, it's Umberto or nothing. Mark Kennedy says, time feels like this. It feels like it's already trying to kill me. This looks great. And D says, need to destroy Bill and fix the anomalies of Echo Falls. So gameplay, how you travel. As you journey through time, discover and make use of 7 different devices. Modes of time travel represented by unique mechanics, from dice and playing cards to tarot cards and coins. These devices will help you shift back and forth, and often back again through the dates of your planet. So that's interesting. You're kind of using a different medium of play for different scenarios. So this isn't just a tarot-based game, a dice-based game. It's kind of everything. Tracking your journey. Your planner is your log of everything you experience on your journey through time. For tracking your progress through the game, you'll have a bookmark character sheet for your inventory, encounters, and identity. I love that. I love that your character physically moves throughout the planner as a bookmark. That's fantastic. End game. Every playthrough of Project Echo has an ending with 6 possible final prompts. The final lines of your story will be up to you. So the planner will also be creating an official Project Echo weekly planner for use with this game. A black and white 105-page wire-O-bound journal featuring dedicated writing space for each day of the year across 52 weekly spreads. That's really cool. That's really, really cool. Interesting. A $3,000 stretch goal is an original soundtrack, which is sick. That's so cool. And then just doubling up the contributors... or rather, all contributors get paid more at double our goal. And then the project planner gets an upgrade with additional artwork, supplemental materials, and more. This is really, really sweet. I love the idea of this. This is definitely on our radar. Solo RPGs are one of the most unique formats to come out of the indie role-playing space. I've been wowed by the innovation of creators in this space, and I've been wanting to contribute my own vision for some time. Project Echo is a new game, but also built on the influence of many other solo game creators in this space. Fantastic. Yeah, this looks so cool. This looks so cool. The amount of ways in which this game sort of like pulled you in, grabbed you as a marketing pitch, right? The video, like even just a simple thing like a solo time travel game is like, okay, interesting. Like having these little bits, these little breadcrumbs for people to just sort of like get the hang of what's going on. So important for these pages. I think this is a really, really great case study of how to sell your game, but also the game itself sounds fantastic. I'm really, really intrigued by this. So that is Project Echo, a solo time travel game available on crowdfunder.com. All right, so we had someone talk about this in the chat before, I believe Indie Bites. Yes, this is Dino Car, which looks absolutely adorable. So I'm going to do a quick little disclaimer here. I've actually worked with, I believe, the designer of... Just check to see if she did... Yeah, just the design, layout, and art. So Julianne Jam Munoz, I've actually worked with her on a project before. That has not influenced whether or not I was going to put this in here. But just to let everyone know, in case it seems like I'm biased, just up front, letting everyone know, I've worked with Julianne before. She's a very cool designer, but you'll have to take my word for it when I say that this has not influenced my decision to put this on this stream right here. But this looks very, very, very cute, and I'm enjoying this already, just looking at the craft supplies all over the place. As a game that seems to have led by an artist, it's really interesting to see how art takes its place in this game. So, Dino Car, a game of chaotic art and city planning for Zine Month 2023. This is on crowdfunder.com again. This is Dino Berry Press, which is a kind of new, I believe, are they partners or friends? I'm actually not sure. I don't want to imply, but Nevin and Jam, I know, are like personally closely related in some way. Whether that is they're in a partnership or if they're married or anything like that, I don't know. But they've started up a sort of indie publishing group called Dino Berry Press. This is one of their first games. They've done a couple, I think, together, and then unofficially they've done a few as well. And it looks like Toto has broken into the bedroom. Hello, Toto. So, who let dinosaurs drive cars? Imagine a world almost entirely the same as our own, except someone's magical wish to meet the dinosaurs came true. But after the welcome party, what were they all to do? Well, they went on to have regular modern lives outside of our own. He's here. Thank you, Zoe. The criminal. I'm sorry, Toto. I'm midstream. And Zoe doesn't want to listen to me harping on about dinosaurs. Big shout out to Zoe in the chat, please. Thank you very much. Right, so I've got bills to pay, families to feed, jobs to work. Most unfortunately of all, though, they have cars to drive, and none of them are really any good at it. That's what happens when you're a 12-foot tall reptile with big legs and tiny arms. It's just really hard to fit into a compact economy-sized sedan, and even harder to operate the dang thing. So, what's the world of Dino Car? Oh, that's the world, sorry. In Dino Car, you and as many friends as you can gather will work together to map out a snippet of that world. You'll paint a map, draw landmarks, slap buildings into place, and take turns going on chaotic road trips and commutes. At the end of a game of Dino Car, you'll have a story to tell and a wonderful map to either frame on the wall or stick to the fridge. Stick to the fridge, I think, is the right vibe, right? This has got like that sort of very, very sort of sweet kind of like kid-friendly vibe. Like it's very, very sort of family vibes to it in like a really lovely way. Not in like a sort of, patronizing way at all. Like the artwork is absolutely delightful. Look at this dinosaur right here. Is that not the most adorable dinosaur you've ever seen in your entire life? So, Dino Car isn't just a tabletop role-playing game. It's also an art-making game for people of all ages, inspired by Maxine Sheen's Bad Maps, which I've not actually heard of. So let's have a look. Interesting. Got the itch.io page for that here if you want to have a look. Band of knights sent on a quest by your wise and benevolent king, but your map, such as it is cheap and poorly made. Interesting. Okay, cool. It takes the idea of making a map as you tell a story and turns it into a whole abstract art-making adventure. Here are the highlights. Map out a section of a whimsical world where dinosaurs drive cars from natural landmarks to urban expansion. Drive across the terrain and weave unique and fantastical dino stories. Create pieces of abstract art with your friends. A fun tabletop role-playing and crafting game for all ages. Whether you're looking for a fun game to play with some friends or reasons to make a mess with the younger members of your family, Dino Car is sure to fit the bill for anyone that likes dinosaurs, cars, or chaos. Yeah, this looks wonderful. I've also got Vinicio Valetti on here, who I've also worked with in the past. Yeah, we've also got Orangful, who was contributed yesterday, who is a member of the Dicebreaker community. So yeah, this looks fantastic. It looks great. Just my full disclosure out here that I've worked with a couple of the people who've worked on this before, but it looks wonderful. Give it a look. It's on crowdfund.com. This is Dino Car, a game of chaotic art and city planning. Let's move on. Okay, so this is Amu, another one on Kickstarter as part of Zine Quest. You can actually tell because they've got a little Zine Quest badge here. If you ever see one of these projects and you want to see more, you can click on that and it will take you to the homepage where you can just grab a click on. Can I not see it because of the scroll? Is that why I can't see it? Or is it because I've got the chat in the way? Discover more. There it is. Click on this button here and it will take you to a search page which is literally just going to show you all of the projects. 1,146 of them. So there's a lot to get through, but you know, we'll do our best. But yeah, so feel free to search along with me if you want. Chiara Locatelli says, are you looking at launch projects only? We are not. No. I'm not going to have much to say about them if there's not much information on the page, but I have already got a few that haven't launched yet but look really cool that we're going to give a highlight. So they won't get as much time, of course, because you know there's only so much I can say about them without the information, but I will be shouting some stuff out. And again, if anyone in the chat wants to show me some more stuff that they think is really cool, please do let me know and show me what you have found yourselves. Big thank you to all 48 of you who have joined me for this, by the way. Okay, so Amu, an Eldritch Extermination, a playfully macabre system-neutral adventure inside the infested corpse of an Eldritch god. So this was interesting to me, because if I'm thinking of the correct one, I believe you take an Eldritch god's eye through its own body, which is the theming of it, which I think is sick. Ellie Sight says, I think previous year's projects might be on that tab. Oh, that's fair. Chris Longhurst says, yeah, the Show Me ZQ button should be everything for 2022. Fair enough. Does this mean that the zine metric market is oversaturated? I don't think so. I think the whole point of zines as a concept is the art of game design. Like the very process of game design is a really precious thing. We want people to do more of. Like we want an element of, kind of like rough and readiness to the kind of prototyping of the games they're making. Because I think there's a lot of pressure right now on tabletop designers to have these like beautiful pieces of art, these like all these awards for all the things that they've done before, these Ennies, and like there's a lot of pressure, especially on crowdfunding sites, to make like the most compelling campaign you physically can, which I was talking about earlier. And a lot of these games, yeah, they do have beautiful art. They've got mock-ups. It looks like this one might even have like some custom dice, perhaps. Like this thing's gorgeous. But the whole kind of point of Zine Month or Zine Quest, whatever you want to call it, to my mind anyway, is just a space like a game jam to just get people to put something out. Like it's that kind of yearly reminder, like, hey, when was the last time you just made a game that people could see, that people could play? It's that first step from making stuff in your bedroom and sort of like roughly hashing Google Doc out with some friends, and actually just putting it on the internet and showing people it, seeing what they think, like, and that process of burying your soul, burying your chest, is quite daunting, I think. But this is such a good space where it's like, yeah, you might get lost in the crowd because there's so many people doing it, right? But the point is, you took part, you made something, and you were given a deadline, which, as a neurodivergent person, is very important for me especially. But yeah, it's a lovely space for people to just give something a go, and I think that's something that should be cherished, So let me just look at some more comments before we carry on. Chris Longhurst says they seem to have fixed the default filter since then. Okay, cool, that's good. Chiara Locatelli says thank you. Yes, it's a hard seat. Good. Mark Kennedy says, as a first-time maker, I definitely felt intimidated by the production value of the other games I was seeing. Yeah, this is the point, Mark. Right? It's there's like an element of I think mainly on the creators themselves, where they feel like if they can't produce something to that level of visual quality, then it's not worth submitting, which is absolutely not true. Like, but I'm going to look at stuff that, there are projects here that are maybe one sentence in a picture, and they look cool, so I'm going to highlight them, right? And whilst I love looking at beautiful art, like that's not the point of what these things are, right? If you are literally releasing a stapled together Word document, but the game that you're making is really cool, or it's really interesting, or it's just something that you're really passionate about, then more power to you. Like, put it on there. There's also this kind of pressure of like, well, what if it doesn't get funded? And it's like, well, if you didn't put any monetary input into the project in the first place, if you didn't stake all of your hopes and dreams on it by paying loads of artists before you had any funds and, you know, like using your personal savings to create this thing, then there's no pressure. Like, it either gets funded or it didn't. And if it doesn't get funded, then no one's lost anything. You've still made that thing. You can put it up on itch for free without any fancy art or anything like that. It's just good to make things. Like, we as humans, like, we're naturally purposefully built to create. Like, we're always, I know I am specifically, like, looking to make something new all the time. Sometimes I'm itching because I don't have any ideas in my head, but I just want to make things. I love Zine Month, I love Zine Quest, because it's just an excuse, right? It's just a place for someone to just go, hey, here's a thing I made. I don't know if it's good. I don't know if people are going to like it, but I'm proud of it. I made it. Here it is, world. Do what you want with it, right? Chiara Locatelli says, I think it's good that even most projects that look polished are not asking for tons of money to be made. It's nice to be able to just make something achievable instead of these huge campaigns. Exactly, Chiara. It's just, you know, the spirit of the zine is like creation for creation's sake. These are not big projects that people are trying to, you know, get rich quick out of. This is just people making things that they're passionate about. And look, artists are as important to this space as any other part of it. Like, it's not just about game designers, right? How many RPGs have you been intrigued by because of the cover art? You know, and like, artists also deserve a space to make things and to be paid for their work as well. So, you know, I don't think we should all be putting out Google Docs and just saying, no, I will not be paying for anything on this. But, you know, there's also no pressure not to if you don't have the money for it. BMD Nerd says, sorry, I've seen comic Kickstarters fail and never try again, and that sucks when the series is good. Yeah, it's like, you know, there's always a section on Kickstarter that's called risks, right? Where someone's just like, hey, this is my first Kickstarter, I'm entirely responsible for everything, all that kind of stuff. And those risks are normally highlighted to the backers. But, you know, there's a lot of risks involved for the people making it, especially when all of that initial investment is in there. Which, again, just to reiterate myself, is why I love this month so much, right? Just put anything out. Have the goal of making £0. Just make something. And you never know, you might just find someone say, hey, that was sick. And suddenly you've got your first bit of meaningful criticism or meaningful feedback, or just someone saying, I like what you did, well done. So, without further ado, this is Amu, an Eldritch Extermination, playfully macabre system-neutral adventure inside the infested corpse of an Eldritch god. Amu, so grab your favourite RPG rulebook and wrangle your players around the table. So this is a module. This is RPG agnostic is the word I'm looking for. It's time for a charming Eldritch romp. Ghastly monsters, gross locations, and as many ineffable sights as you can handle are jam-packed into this 24-page scene. So, the adventure. Having lured you into its maw, Amu asks for help exterminating a vile infestation that has taken over its rotten heart. Should you succeed, a safe exit and Eldritch loot is yours. The reluctant or unsuccessful, however, are reduced to primordial ooze. Good luck! So we've got this beautiful art style. Look, it's inspired by Morkborg, I'm sure. The pinks, the yellows, the massive contrast, the sort of like slightly edgy and bombastic style. I think we're going to see a lot of games inspired by Morkborg, but sort of maximalist design. And I assume that this game will work pretty well with it as well. So it's system neutral. It's an adventure that's compatible with all RPG systems. It's designed for about 1 or 2 sessions. Usually takes 4 to 5 hours to complete. It's fully illustrated with bespoke artwork accompanying each monster location item found in Amu. And Amu begins with the player stumbling upon the rotting behemoth. So you've got the corpse, the maw, the gullet, the heart, all sorts of different sort of biomes on the internals of this creature. Amu has fallen from eldritchy glory, body a rotting corpse, essence shrunk to a flaming eyeball, lacking the galaxy-devouring strength it once possessed. Amu oozes with quippy disdain for the fleshy mortals it now requires aid from. This is Amu, and so is this. Amu, sorry, there we go. That's good, I like that. Put some more how to pronounce things in your fantasy worlds, please. So yeah, I love this idea that you've got this kind of once indescribably powerful being who is now just a little gelatinous sack that carries around is carried around by humans is like, this sucks. I hate this. Make me powerful again. Eek acts as a player proxy for the artwork in Armu. The not-so-brave little frog dutifully plays the part of intrepid adventurer for your viewing pleasure. And we've got the mutants of the swarm. Feasting on Armu's flesh and ichor has mutated the once tiny pests into ferocious abominations. Their transformation included adopting aspects of Armu's anatomy, making for an incredibly ugly foe with a glowing weak spot. Nice. Mikey says, hey, opening up and seeing DiaQuest Zine. That one looks awesome, and I already backed it. Yeah, if anyone's got any more that they want to show off, even if you... Look, I'll say this right now. If you're in here as a designer and you've got a project and you want me to talk about it, pop a link. Well, not a link, but pop the name and the website it's on in the chat below, and I will try and have a look at it if I get the time. But we are... Oh, my God, we're already an hour in. So, yeah, this looks amazing. Beautiful, lovely layout. Tokens, looks like it's kind of a hex crawl kind of vibe, dungeon crawl vibe rather. So yeah, looking fantastic. Very, very beautiful project. They are clearly aware that this is going to do well. They've planned out all the way up to a 25 grand soundtrack for the adventure. It's currently already breaking its goal. It's got 19 days to go. So yeah, huge. Go and have a look. That is Armu and Eldritch Extermination. Hello, Gregoire Andre. D said, I wouldn't exactly call the exit of an Eldritch being safe, lol. Yeah. But, you know, what could happen? Who knows? We're funding those who gather dust on Kickstarter. I believe that might be one of the ones that I've already got tabbed out, or at least I've seen it on. So I've still got my Twitter thread as well. Some people might have seen that I tweeted about it last night, just to have people look at it. So, yeah. Enter the Earth on Kickstarter is Chris Longhurst. Yeah, please do. Please self-promo. I don't give a damn. GameFound is the name of the website I was trying to talk about earlier. So this is an interesting one. This is one that I wanted to highlight. Because I feel like the last time I did one of these, it was kind of just like, hey, look at these cool things. And I wanted to talk about, you know, Zine Month and Zine Quest in general. As a designer myself, I've taken part in one of these. I did a zine before. It was a really cool experience. One that I have cherished memories of, but also, you know, like, it's worth noting that things can go wrong. And this is an example of kind of the stuff that I talked about before, like kind of things that can happen. So you see this project was cancelled. So this is Plus One EXP, which is a great Twitch channel run by a guy called Tony Facenda. Lovely guy. You will probably have seen him on one of our streams before. I believe he's been on with us in some capacity. But Tony Facenda's great sort of resource for finding new indie RPGs. Does a lot of work to try and get more things in front of people. But this is a project that has been funded by his... I guess he's kind of published it in some way, because this is actually by another designer by the name of Nuclear Obelisk, who's already run 3 successful tabletop role-playing crowdfunding campaigns before, and was published by Exalted Funeral in 2021. So you may know them from, let's have a look, Power Words, for example. An engine for gaming, all that kind of stuff. So, been there, done that. Like, someone who is clearly familiar with this space already. But you can see this project didn't fund. So I think it got, let's see, 38% of the goal. So this isn't like, I'm not I'm sorry if the person who did this campaign is watching. It was a bit like, I didn't really want to see the corpse of my crowdfunding campaign. So apologies for that. But I wanted to show that, like, you know, look at all this beautiful art. Look at this fantastic page that's been set up. All the support that it had, and like some things just don't make it to the light of day. I think they're still planning to have this book go out. This is 13 Hunters. It is a kind of collection of different sort of fantastical bounty hunters that you can sort of drop into any of your sci-fi or fantasy games. So it's like a big book of villains almost that you can have to chase down the players and have interactions with, or maybe to be sort of like NPCs for your quest givers and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it didn't work out, unfortunately. Like, it's for whatever reason, I don't know the exact sort of like parameters for what the reason was, but this is one of the kind of like concerns that a lot of people had when moving away from Kickstarter. In fact, actually, Chris Longhurst has just dropped in the chat. I tried to find a thing on GameFound last year, failed with £500 a month, relaunched on Kickstarter and made £500 a day. So it's, this is one of the dangers of people taking this kind of like moral stance of saying, hey, I don't really want to work at Kickstarter. They've done some things that I don't agree with, but by going to these platforms that don't have the same established audience, they put the risk on themselves, which is an admirable thing to do. I think it's worth saying, if you are someone who buys RPGs on Kickstarter all the time, like, do try and have a look around at some of the other websites. Look at Crowdfunder, which has just launched. Look at GameFound. Look at some of the other stuff that's happening, because they don't have that same ecosystem that Kickstarter is privy to, because they were kind of the first big one to the punch that got that big audience. And there are kind of like, in the way that people will find with like Twitch and Instagram and stuff like that, it's like a very closed space. Like, people just go on Kickstarter. They won't find your project through Twitter or a Google ad or or whatever. They will literally just go on Kickstarter's front page and have a look at what's going on. And other websites don't necessarily have that luxury. And it's not really, I don't really care about the websites personally. Like, if GameFound is not making much money, like, it's not really the end of the world for me. It's another company. I'm more concerned about the creators that are using it, right? So if you want to support this space, if you want to support people trying to get like a slightly, like more universal audience for RPGs that isn't just based around one company and one website, then at some point, unfortunately, in this horrible capitalist system we live in, we do have to put our money where our mouth is, and find projects like this that are funding on different websites. And GameFound is a big one. Like, it's tabletop focused. It's got games on there that have done mega busters, but just the stuff on the very like audience that they have is nowhere near to the scale that Kickstarter has. Monkey says even back at its ecosystem is nowhere near what Kickstarter has. Like, it's tough out here, and people made a stance and said, hey, we want to use a different website. So if you agree with that stance, I'm not saying you have to, but if you agree with that stance, then go out, help them out, find some other websites. It looks like Crowdfunder's doing well. Like, it looks like a few projects are doing well on there, but take a look out for 13 Hunters when it drops on retail. I think they're planning to still launch it, so give it a go. Maybe help out Nuclear Obelisk and get that project a little bit maybe the limelight it could have had. So moving on, let's see what we got here. So this is an example of one that is not currently out just yet. This is Hardlight Dynamic by Joshua Harper. This is a cyborg adventure or module. It's a zine for Cyborg, the game, which is a cyberpunk version of Morpborg. It's a descent into the acid horror playground of a doomed AI as it slowly breaks reality down around itself. Right now, you can just notify for launch. There is a little bit more info and a cover, which looks really cool. I'm not sure if you can see the skull inside of the spiral, but I love the way that scrolling kind of like messes with your eyes a little bit, and it takes a little while to see the skull inside of the print of the cover. It's a really, really cool design. This is written by Joshua Harper with design and development by CJ Kroger. It's an acid horror tinged descent. This is what we just read, isn't it? Yeah. So, designed for Cyborg or easily hacked for your choice of unsettling dystopian cyberpunk, the Hardlight Dynamic will be a 28 plus page, full color, saddle sit zine filled with story, encounters, enemies, gear, and weirdness. So that's all we've got so far, but it looks very cool, so I thought I'd give it a highlight. We'll move back on. Okay. So, this is one that I'm really, really interested in. This is another really fun mechanic. And I've said it once, I'll say it again. I absolutely love interesting new mechanics, interesting new ways in which we play role-playing games. And this is Morpholammancy, the mystical art of novel spell word creation. Rules like linguistic micro RPG. So, this is sick. This is a game in which you kind of like cut together words to try and create spells. And this is interesting because Maddie can attest to this. We were playing Magic the Gathering the other day in the office. And I noticed that when you sort of splayed your cards out, you could create like a mega card by combining all of the first words of each card. So you'd have like, I don't know, gigantic angel demon laser of Naresh or whatever, which yeah, it's this interesting thing of like just sort of slapping stuff together, almost like Mad Libs. So Morpholammancy is a cooperative rules-like micro RPG for 3 to 6 players, and the debut game for the dynamic duo of David and Nita. With only a D10, index cards, and the power of multi-part words, players harness their creativity to fight through a series of randomly generated obstacles on a quest to pass their final exam and become Morpholammancers. So how does it work? Each player writes words of at least 2 morphemes, which is word parts. So I believe, yeah, toxic, itty, for example, is toxicity. It's got 2 morphemes in it. I did not know anything about linguistics, I'm afraid, outside of a few fun facts. So I'm not familiar with the terminology. But on note cards, before cutting each into 2 pieces, splitting up at least 2 of the morphemes, such as bird feeder or toxic itty. These newly divided morphemes are shuffled and spread equally among the players. In play, arranging 2 or more morphemes together creates new words imbued with power. The effectiveness of these words depends on how well the players can convince the morphological master that their spell fits the occasion. During their exam, it is up to the players to work together to create new words that will help them overcome the challenge. So this is really interesting. This kind of reminds me of those card games like Super Fight or Snake Oil or things like that, where you combine cards, and like in Snake Oil, for example, you might get like a phone and a hairdryer, so you have to like create this brand new product, and you're basically like pitching it to a person who might buy it, and then whoever is not pitching is going to choose who gets the point, who they're going to spend their money on. So you're making these like ridiculous devices. This is kind of like a similar vibe, but you're making spells in that way. Also reminds me of Job Job from Jackbox, which you might have seen us play on stream before. So Ultra Jelly Coat, they've got as an example. Steel Covered Bear Cannon, which is fantastic. It just looks so much fun. Necro needed Minnow Sly. Amazing. So yeah, I love this. 12 pages that contain the entirety of the game, custom world building, D10 resolution mechanic, 5 D10 tables of mix and match challenges, beautiful illustrations by Chromomancer and Ding, and pre-cleaved suggestion words for inspiration. So yeah, absolutely love it. Love the vibe. Love the idea. It seems like a brand new team of people as well, which is really, really fun. So go and check this out on Kickstarter as part of Zine Quest. This is Morpholammancy. And also some lovely words, lovely art as well. All right. So, up next. So this is a follow-up to a project that we saw before. This one is already going absolute gangbusters, as you can probably tell from the beautiful Mobius art style. But this is the Electrum Archive Issue 2, Return to the Science Fantasy World of Orn in this tabletop RPG zine exploring the bustling city, desert city, sorry, of Titan Port. Do you like the idea of wizards sniffing alien ink to cast spells? Well, oh boy, do I have an RPG for you. So, the Electrum Archive Issue 2 is the second zine in a tabletop RPG zine series exploring the science fantasy setting of Orn, a world where adventurers delve into ancient alien shipwrecks in search of magical ink, which is used as both currency and spellcasting fuel. So, already seeing sort of like parallels between things like this and what am I trying to say? Printweaver, which we've mentioned on the channel before. The first scene, which is also available through this campaign, so we can have a little look through that as well. So this is the issue 1. Again, really, really beautiful. This is an example of one that I think, nobody would have necessarily been that concerned about this funding. Absolutely gorgeous, fully fledged RPG, still in that sort of zine format, but this is like a big project. But what is the Electrum Archive, for those wondering? So the Electrum Archive is a science fantasy tabletop RPG written by Emil Boven and inspired by games like Morrowind, which I'm definitely getting the vibes of Ultraviolet Grasslands, Mothership, Dark Sun, and Cairn, is being developed for a series of zines that detail parts of the world of Orn and add new rules and procedures for use to use the table. So this is really interesting. This is like a it's kind of like a almost like a book series, like a Game of Thrones sort of book series, where we unlock more information and knowledge about this kind of setting as each thing is released, which I think is also another unique kind of fun vibe in which zines can bring to this kind of space. I think so often you see these huge tomes on Kickstarter that are like 400 pages long. It's like, I've made this new fantasy setting. It's like, this is really cool, but it's so dense, so difficult to trudge through, and for a brand new player to learn all that before you've even started learning the rules is a lot, and it makes it really, really difficult for players to jump in. So having these kind of like bite-sized looks into a setting and gradually introducing the universe over a series of releases, which presumably will come with new classes and things like that. It's a really, really interesting way, really, really interesting take on how to bring about new settings into the RPG space, which is really cool. So what do we get in this scene? So we've got 2 table-ready adventure sites within Titan Port, and a 3rd larger adventure scenario taking players to an elder ship buried in the desert outside the city walls. New rules and procedures, including ways to handle downtime activities between adventures and hire hirelings. An overview of Titan Port's districts and important landmarks, breakdown of the city's scheming factions, important NPCs, and the relations between them. Random tables for city encounters, buildings, and curiosities available for sale at Titan Port's markets. And new character options for Vagabond, Fixer, and Warlock characters. Yeah, so you can see gradually introducing, imagine like a Blades in the Dark style book where every so often you can just grab a new book and it's got a new city, it's got new interesting NPCs to meet, it's got new classes for people to play as if they want to make a character. Love it. Like, really, really fantastic idea. Such a cool setting. Like I said, very, very Mobius. Very, very Morrowind. Very sort of Nausicaa as well. All those kind of like art styles I'm seeing kind of influenced on this. And deserving of that Project We Love badge on Kickstarter. This one, it doesn't need our help in any way, but it's doing great. But yeah, worth having a look at. Really, really interesting project. That is the Electrum Archive issue 2. Alright, next up, back to Crowdfunder, where we have Wands and Laser Guns, a high-intensity solo role-playing game. This one also has a video.
You are a wizard trapped in an anti-magic future. You don't know how you got here, you don't know how to get back. All you know is that this future is not kind, and worse, it seems your magic is weakening. It's time to embrace this new future, at least some of it. Pick up a laser gun and defend yourself. Pit your old-fashioned wits and wondrous new technology against diamond-studded nobility, cybernetically enhanced gangs, dirty cops with a vendetta, and high-fashion psychopaths. The struggle is real when you're far from home. This is Wands and Laser Guns, a high-intensity solo role-playing game. So I'm super into Wands and Laser Guns. Not only do I love lasers, I love all the color with this, I love solo games.
So this is kind of interesting. Looks like they've got like a content creator to do their video for them, which is kind of interesting. This is by Christian Barnweg from the US. You are a wizard trapped in an anti-magic future. Not a future I'd ever find myself in, that's for sure. You don't know how you got here. You don't know how to get back. All you know is that the future is not kind. And worse, it seems your magic is weakening. It's time to embrace this new future. So you'll need a 10-sided dice and a deck of playing cards to play this game. You'll have 3 stats. You've got health, wands, and laser guns. It's designed to pitch players into a fast-paced series of quirky and highly lethal fights. This is kind of an interesting, more combat-driven solo game. I think a lot of solo games tend to lean towards sort of storytelling aspects. So it's interesting to see, games more on the sort of like Iron Sworn kind of vein of play, in which they stick with that kind of crunchy rule set where it's all about, combat encounters and like tactical play. So that's kind of interesting as well. I love the setting, I love the colors. Put anything in pink and blue and I'm going to be interested. Dicebreaker says trans rights. But yeah, like another interesting little setting, interesting little solo game. It's a great space for writing these solo games, because the lovely thing about solo RPGs is that you don't need anyone's prototype. Like you can jump straight in with your own game and you can start doing iterations. And obviously you should get other people to play it, because it informs your design decisions of people who aren't thinking like you, which is always an interesting way of looking at the game that you're making, because at the end of the day, those are the people that will be playing it the most. but it's great for making solo stuff. Making solo stuff is such a breeze and so joyful when you're like making something small and something that fits in a little book and something that you can just sort of take around with you. So cool to see. Like, I'm guessing we'll use cards for prompts, we'll use the dice for combat. You can actually play an Ashcan version of this already if you're not familiar. Ashcans are, like I said, just this kind of like stripped down, very kind of like functional version of the book, which just allows you to take a look at how the game plays and, you know, not think about, for example, commissioning art or necessarily like having every single aspect of the thing ready. It's just it's a good tool for getting the game out to people, getting people's thoughts on it, which is great. Chris Longhurst says, just browsing the Temple of the Blank on Planet Blank looks quite fun. Every output should be unique. All right. So, crowdfunder. This is Mecha Concrete. A chiptune fantasy RPG. I love the setting of this one. This one looks like it's pretty fresh out. Only $60 pledged so far, only 9 contributors, but 24 days left, so plenty of time of their €500 goal. This is from Naples in Italy, which is cool. Always good to see. Slightly different country from the ones that we're used to from the UK and the US and Canada. So Mecha Concrete is a 24-page comedic TTRPG where you and your friends play as robots called mechas, exploring a medieval world full of morally questionable inhabitants. Fight your way through hordes of greedy cultists, angry knights, and giant salamanders. So this is a fun sort of mashup of different time zones. So time periods, sorry. So we've got sci-fi characters falling into a medieval world. Always loads of fun and hijinks that you can get up with that kind of setting in the first place. It is reminding me of, I believe, the Grant Howitt RPG about being essentially a space marine from Warhammer. Kind of, we've got another Toto breach. Yeah. Oh, you can leave him if you want. Do you want to come and sit with me? Is that what's going on? I've got a lot of cables, Toto. Do you want to say hello to the chat? You can say one hello, and then I'm going to put you down because there's no room for you to go anywhere. Come here. Oh, the baby boy. The big gay baby. He's here, and he wishes to say hello. You want to look at some zines? Huh? What's your favourite zine? You want to play Dino Car? Yeah? And immediately he wants to get down. Ugh. He's not here to drink his water. He's here to drink my water. All right. Okay, so Mecha Concrete, as I was saying, already a fun setting. Looks like is this the first campaign that Giuseppe's put out? It's tough to tell because it's a brand new website, so I'm not sure if I'll be able to see any previous projects. But not a designer I've heard of personally before, so it could be a new one. And yeah, very nicely put together, some great art. I love the kind of like chromatic aberration art style they've gone for on the pictures, kind of giving a like Saturday morning cartoon kind of vibe, which is fun. But yeah, this is looking great. I love the setting of this. There's not much for me to speak on outside of that. I think it's rules light, right? So it's very much designed at newer players or those who are not that worried about crunch and just want to have fun time. So D6 based, rules light, fun little concept, fun little setting, great art. Give it a look. It's on crowdfunder at Mecha Concrete with a K. Moving on, let's see what we've got next. It is Beneath Hallowed Halls, a dark academia powered by the Apocalypse Zine. It's a TPT RPG of friendships that run deep and bodies that are buried even deeper for Zine Quest 2023. So this is Toto. I knew this would happen. You're getting all mixed up with the wires, buddy. There's no space for you. You've got too many wires. There's too many wires, buddy. I suppose at any one time in my life I might have had any number of stories, but now there is no other. This is the only story I will ever be able to tell. Donna Tartt, The Secret History. So, you are a tight-knit group of students at an elite university where you spend most of your time drinking, sharing secrets, and rambling about your obscure intellectual passions. Also, one of you committed a murder. You must make it to the end of your semester without arousing too much suspicion, or you could be the one to go down for it. So this is kind of interesting. Because, if this is the one I'm thinking of, there's a lot of games in my head right now, so I'm struggling to remember which one's which. I believe this is a social deduction role-playing game, which is still a relatively untapped market, I think. There's not many RPGs that see kind of the players pushed against each other in a sort of like competitive environment. Most RPGs are still sort of collaborative storytelling games, right? Regardless of how many tactical rules you have of fighting, kind of, you just have to be involved, don't you? Yeah, regardless of how many tactical rules you have around combat and all that kind of stuff, you are still kind of, you know, cooperative and all working towards the same goal. With these kind of elements of social deception, as you can see here, you know, it adds like a fun layer of competition, which won't be for everyone, I know that, but it just kind of mixes things up, mixes up the dynamic of the play around the table. And I think sometimes, you know, some players are a little bit competitive with each other anyway. So just to sort of like pull that out in a slightly more conductive space for it, where it's not going against the play of the game, and, you know, having a space where people can kind of, you know, poke at each other a little bit. It's fun. It's good. So, Beneath Hallowed Halls. It's a social deception game of friendships that run deep and bodies that are buried even deeper. It's been designed by Vincent Magui Baker. I'm sorry, I don't know the pronunciation on that one. Powered by the Apocalypse system. And it includes several new mechanics such as loyalty and suspicion trackers. It features elements of both cooperative and player versus player gameplay, and can be run with 3 to 6 players and 1 game master. Zine includes a GM guide, player book, 6 playbooks, and a sample scenario for quick set games. It will be between 20 and 30 pages, subtle stitch, and printed at a local print shop. So, as you can see, you know, this has nice art, but it's very kind of like, you know, it's sketchy, it's illustrative. It's not necessarily these like grand, sweeping, full color illustrations from you know, massive, very popular artists, for example. Like, you know, you can do art, you can do pretty RPGs without breaking the bank, I think. And, you know, by picking like a strong but quick art style, like there's ways in which you can provide like a more clean visual that isn't gonna break the bank, basically, but also isn't gonna sort of like break the back of the artist who is doing it for cheaper necessarily. Because I don't want people to go out looking to try and scam artists or anything, but, you know, small illustrations. The majority of this page is taken up by text. Just a little popping bottle of champagne, a few chess pieces and a skull. You know, like this. These aren't necessarily huge illustrations. They're just kind of tone setting, scene setting. You know, which is kind of interesting. But this looks really cool. This is Beneath Hallowed Halls. Funding over on Kickstarter.com. They have met their goal already with 59 backers, but 19 days to go. And we'll see what we get from that. Moving on. So, The Haunting of Abamond Manor. A ghostly adventure in a sinister manor house for use of OSR and sword and sorcery tabletop role-playing games. I'm a big fan of Haunting of Hill House. That might have, you know, had a slight bias towards my opinion to click on this. But you can download a full preview of this one. This one's actually available to have a look at straight away. This is, for the better part of a century, the decaying husk of Abamond Manor has perched on a hill overlooking Readthrough. Its facade as as rotten as its reputation. The grand country home of the once influential Abamond family. It has been haunted by rumours of a curse since the sudden disappearance of everyone who lived and worked there. Love ghost stories, love spooky RPGs. It is system neutral and system agnostic, which means you can use it for literally anything. You know, it's not necessarily, like I said, it's not going to have the most beautiful art style. So I don't want games like this to get lost because they don't have huge spreads of gorgeous art. But it looks fun, looks cool. Love it, spooky. Cassie Moffin is actually a fan, so read the alpha version, it's so good. It has a nifty time limit mechanic, which is fun. That is a system that I love for... Oh my god, pardon me. I'm getting a cold. Am I getting a cold, or is just your fur all over my nose, Hito? Huh? Which one is it? He's chilled out now. He's sat beside me. But yes, I love games that are not games, modules that imply sort of mechanics for them that can be used in any role-playing game. You know, when you're writing a setting or a module, don't be afraid to do a few game mechanics. You know, you can add things on top to pretty much any RPG that will work with anything. So yeah, seeing stuff like little time limit mechanics. There we go. So this adventure is intended to be relatively short. And Abamond Manor is a place with many dangers and a resident entity who doesn't take kindly to uninvited guests. To reflect this, keep the action moving and present this dynamic setting, the adventure is tended to be played in 4 hours or less, either as a one-shot session or over a couple of short sessions. The text provides instructions for how to track time and the changing events that take place as the time runs out. Really cool. You know, modules are often these sort of static things that have predetermined kind of, you know, move from block A to block B to block C. What happens when, if you take too long in block B, suddenly block D turns up, right? Love that. Really cool. So yeah, nice and clean looking design. It's got a sort of stretch goal for specific system conversions. So there is 5e in D&D. I know a lot of our fans are very big D&D fans. So I think we actually had a visual example of what that might look like, where, you know, creatures would begin stats and all that kind of stuff. So great stuff. Love to see it. Let's move on. So this one is actually just on an itch page. This is Her Servant Death. I was completely enamored with this huge spread, this ominous looking woman in the background, which is just great. But this is a GM-less DTRPG for 2 to 4 players. You are the spoiled children of the matriarch, striving through your final days as her cursed warrior hunts you down. Using a 52-card deck, players answer prompts to detail their world, their past, their struggle, and their strained relationships with one another. One by one, the warrior will kill you, but death does not mean you are out of the game. Continue drawing cards and answering prompts about your regrets that will remain forever unsolved. So this is descended from the Queen, which I believe is the For the Queen game system. It is a prompt-based storytelling game. I'm sure you've played a few of these before if you've played any indie RPGs. Put this in because it looks cool, but also I want to remind people that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. If you just want to, you know, if you were writing a novel, I wouldn't be upset with you who said, I just want to make like a bog standard romance. If that's what you want to write, that's what you want to write. Like, not everything has to be a complete reinvention. Not everything has to introduce stuff that no one's ever seen before. Sometimes you just got a cool story to tell, and you're happy doing it with stuff that already exists. And there's so many system resource documents that you can use, whether it is Powered by the Apocalypse or the for the Queen system or Forged in the Dark or anything you want. There's so many different systems in which you can build your game on top of that are available for you now. So that is Her Servant Death on itch.io. Got about half an hour left. I'm getting through these tabs as quick as I can. I feel like I've gone a lot of tangents. But on Crowdfunder, this is Swamp Patrol Witches /Witch in print. Not met their goal yet. 30% of 500 with 22 days left. By Luke Simmons in Pittsburgh. But last year, I finally jumped into making tabletop role-playing games after years of running them with my friends. Swamp Patrol Witches is my first game, which I put together for the Motif SRD Jam. The digital version has already done better than I ever hoped, but now I'd also love to see it in print, and I hope some other folks do. So if you are aware of this game already, and have maybe even played it, you can grab yourself a printed copy of it. The game is about be a troll witch, live in a swamp, solve problems, brew potions, relax with a hot bath, live your best troll witch life. Swamp Troll Witches is a game masterless tabletop role-playing game for solo journaling, epistolary play, which I believe is written letters. Is that what epistolary? God, that's a hard word to say. In the form of letters. Get in, lads. Wheels knows words. Or small group play based on the motif framework. Game focuses on the daily lives of the troll witches, searching the swamp for potion ingredients, solving problems to collect those ingredients, brewing potions, and relaxing at the end of the day to recover from the work. At the end of the week, visit the strange night market to sell all the potions from the week. So yeah, fun little witchy, swampy vibes. It's got great art. It looks lovely, and it's coming to print, so have a little look at that too. Up next, Horse and Rider. This is another crowdfunder.com one. So, only 3 contributors have contributed to this. I love the look of it. This Horse and Rider is a 2-player game about a horse rider taming and forming a bond with their horse. It's heavily inspired by techniques taught to me by an actual farrier who has spent his entire life working with and around horses. Despite being the daughter of a loud and proud horse girl, it completely changed my perspectives on horses and our relationships with them. With this game, I hope to achieve a similar effect. So, this is a kind of, I believe, yeah, it's 2-player, right? So you've got one person playing as the horse itself and one as the rider. And it's kind of this bonding experience game. This is coming out of Queensland, Australia. Again, not everything has to be a hex crawl. Not everything has to be about eldritch abominations and witches and goblins and ghouls. I think we tend to lean into established fantasy stuff a lot when we do games. So I do love seeing things that are just a little bit different, tackle different topics, and the braiding mechanic, which is kind of interesting, which I spotted on this. So this mechanic, okay, let me just read from the top here. So to that end, Horse and Rider is a collaborative storytelling game. One person plays the horse, the other the rider, and each works together to form a bond over the course of 6 stages. Each stage draws from the techniques used to tame horses and are mechanically represented through a 6-sided dice and 3 pieces of string or ribbon that are braided together. This mechanic was chosen as a way to represent trust between the two parties and draws from the history of horse riders, including my mother, braiding their horse's hair. The braiding mechanic is entirely unique to Horse and Rider and is designed to make it more accessible to those new to TTRPGs. While not everyone has a full dice set lying around their house, most people do have 3 ribbons or strings and a 6-sided die. The second half of the book is dedicated to the actual techniques taught to me, as I wanted the mechanics themselves to be more freeform. The second section is intended to educate and provide inspiration. So this is really interesting. It's like a lovely little, very, very sort of specific and niche experience, available as a role-playing game. You know, play something that is going to be unlike stuff that you've seen before on Zine Quest or Zine Month. Horse and Rider on Crowdfunder. Very, very small project so far. 26 days left, though. Plenty of time to give them some love. Okay, another one that is not yet launched, but looks really fun. This is Drama Llamas. A chaotic, drama-filled, narrative-rich, rules-light tabletop RPG. God, that's a lot of buzzwords. Playing as fame-hungry reality TV contestants who are also llamas. Absolutely gorgeous art style on this. It looks like a fully published board game, honestly. This is coming from Button King Games. I love stuff around Toto. Are you not getting enough attention? Huh? You're not getting enough attention. I love stuff based around reality TV. It's such a fun space to do stupid stuff with your friends when you're playing a role-playing game. Looks great. Can't wait for it to launch. 500 people already asking for a notification of launch, so this one should do really well. Have a little look at that one on Kickstarter. Up next, we have Feathertale Falls, a zine-sized adventure collection about mice that dream to fly for old-school adventuring with a feathery tail. So, this is a Mouse Ritter adventure. If you've not played Mouse Ritter before, very, very popular with the Dicebreaker team. Both Maddie and Matt have played a lot of it and love it. Toto, I don't know if you heard about the mice, and that's why you're coming over, but there's no mice for you to eat, buddy. This one also has a video. Let's play it. Just pause my music.
Discover Feathertale Falls, where mice can dream to fly. Uncover the legends underneath its canopies. Reawaken its secrets at your peril. Feathertale Falls is an adventure collection powered by the Mouse Ritter role-playing game. It's an A5 zine containing a region to explore, 5 adventure sites to delve into, factions to interact with, as well as new creatures to encounter and treasure to find.
It's a cat, Toto.
So join us now on this adventure with a feathery tail.
Very sweet, very lovely. Love the music, that Mouse Ritter vibe, very cottagecore. So, Feathertale Falls is a mouse fantasy TTRPG zine that builds on the free Mouse Ritter rules, a deceptively simple system perfectly suited for mouse-sized zine expeditions. The zine's adventurous yet melancholy tone is inspired by Over the Garden Wall, Hilda, and the secret world of Arietti, as well as the art of Julia Sada. The adventure takes place in the Feathertale Forest, a place little mice pups might know from bedtime stories about mice that dream to fly. When you start exploring it, you will find that the unwelcoming forest has been petrified in time. It's up to you to decide if and how to reawaken it, and to deal with the consequences as you discover more of the forest secrets. So really interesting. A cool looking setting for a wonderful game. Again, really beautiful art. A lot of color in this that you don't necessarily see in the original book. If you look at some of the illustrations that they've got as examples, really, really lovely sort of color schemes and interesting art style. But the reason I'm talking about the art a lot is because I believe one of their sort of pledge goals, if I can find it, yeah, is the Fancy Mouse Edition, which comes with a custom A5 mouse portrait, which is cool as hell. Custom A5 mouse portrait commissioned by you and illustrated by Max, alongside everything included in the deluxe edition. €200 for a custom commissioned art piece is pretty cheap, and it comes with a game and all of the stuff with it as well. So that is worth looking into, and the art on this is beautiful, so it's worth a go. I can foresee a group of people who are very passionate about Mouse Ritter, maybe even doing one each and having a whole fully illustrated campaign with all of their characters available for them. That's just really sweet. Looking great, looking fantastic, looking gorgeous. Master Adventure Feathertale Falls, on Kickstarter.com. Chiaro Locatelli says, I had a phone call and missed the last 20 minutes. Got to rewind, but then I might miss the live reactions. This is going to be available as a VOD if you are tuning in halfway through and you miss stuff in the background. Feel free to scroll back. Loads of stuff to look through. Up next on Zine Month, we've got Dreamspace. I believe this one... Oh, yeah, no. I've already got that as a tab. Picture the Figment, you and their Dreamspace. Picture the Figment, you and their Dreamspace. I don't know how to read that sentence. Go on adventures through dense oceans, crumbling schoolhouses, winding caverns underground, leaping high over quaking rooftops, floating on the surface of lakes, howling operas into the night sky, doing 1,000 things you can never do in the real world. Dreamspace is a GM-less tabletop role-playing game made to be played by 3 to 6 players in one session lasting a few hours. Plays a group of figments, making a daring and winding journey through a surreal land of sleep. So this is a sort of game about children and their sort of figment of their imagination selves in their own dream worlds. This is crowdfunding on itch.io. It's available for purchase right now, so I believe that means it is a completed game that you can grab for yourself, and as part of that you'll be helping refund the creator. This is a game powered by my girlfriend, built on the Girlfriend engine created by Stargazer Sasha, whose works you can find here. But you can order a physical copy or check out their other work on their website, thetruetoad.com, which looks like this, which is very sweet. But over on itch.io, like the aesthetic, like the idea. It's also got a sort of very kind of, and again, I don't mean this as an insult or anything like that. Like, I can tell that this person has just made this themselves, which I think is a really, really, really good thing to do for Zine Month especially. Don't need to hire a design artist or anything like that. Just get scrappy, like make something. Mamatos, who I think is one of the most amazing visual designers in all of the RPG space right now, does stuff on PowerPoint. You know, you can make character sheets on Google Sheets. Like there's so many different tools that are available to you for free that you can just start making stuff on. And it looks like a sort of similar vibe here. It's maybe not going to look like a professional designer made it, but does it need to if you're just making a game? I don't think so. So have a little look at this. Got some interesting little mechanics here. I've not done Powered by My Girlfriend before, so I'm interested to see how that works. That is Dreamspace on thetruetoad.itch.io. So what we've got next is the Bagshore Estate Adventure, also on itch.io. This is a 39-room adventure location written to be played with the Into the Odd system for 1 to 4 players and a referee. This is part of the Dungeon 23 challenge by Sean McCoy. If you didn't see this kind of cool, kind of like almost like the Buck 50 challenge or NaNoWriMo or something like that, where it kind of asks you to do like a level of a dungeon with each day or something like that. But yeah, it is it's a really like fun way of approaching design. And it's cool to see people sort of putting their creations up for sale as well. I say for sale, it looks like it's downloadable for free. So you can actually grab this right now. I really like the art style they've gone with. I love the kind of like mid-century movie poster vibe that it has to it, which is really cool. You might see it on stuff like Criterion Collection DVDs, things like that. But yeah, fully mapped out, got a cool kind of nautical aesthetic. after the timely death of the current proprietor of the Baxther estate, the city has ordered its demolition. Tonight is the only chance to find what secret it hides. Love an RPG with a time limit. Hey, you've only got this night to do things. Love that. Great. Yeah, Hitchcockian poster style. Exactly, Hatching DM. Really cool. Chiara says, Marmatos is a psychopath working on PowerPoint, but like in a good way. Had to translate Magus on PowerPoint. It was not fun. Yeah, but the same being like, I believe Marmatos did that specifically to show that you can make beautiful things without having to fork out loads of money for Adobe tools and stuff like that, right? So yeah, it's really cool. Moving up, this is another one that is not quite ready yet. We've just got a notify me on launch page on Kickstarter, but this is Chiron's Doom. The cover massively grabbed me for this one. Very, very beautiful, giving comic book vibes. It is a storytelling game about 3 ill-fated explorers striving to unravel the secrets of a mysterious monument. As disasters multiply and their expedition falls apart, they must decide how much they are willing to sacrifice to reach final understanding. Originally designed as a solo journaling experience, played over a series of days or perhaps weeks, Chiron's Doom also runs great with up to 3 players on a shared expedition. There we go. So, again, beautiful looking, cool concept. Don't have much more information about that. By Nick Bate. Have a little look on that on the Zine Month website or on Kickstarter to get notified. Great cover. Really great cover. What more can you say? What a cover. Moving on. Speaking of very cool looking things, I've got a lot of badges on this, and we've also got a video, so let's have a look and see what it has for us. Okay, not much information in that one, which is fine. It was cool. But this is Kill Kindness, a TTRPG about fighting an alt-right Christo-fascist government in dystopian post-apocalyptic Florida, a Zine Quest 5 project. Already doing well, already broken their goal. This is I believe they said it was Forged in the Dark, which is kind of interesting. So, in a post-apocalyptic future under a blast dome surrounded by greening land, a fascist corporation has preserved the last city. Kill Kindness is about the Bastion's destruction at your hands. Form a network of spies, overthrow the company, and kill the immortal William Kind. Kill Kindness is 2 zines, one that contains the way to make characters and the rules needed for play. The second zine contains options, advice, tables, and details. Kill Kindness is a D6 dice pool game in 3 acts. It is a bastardized mix of Powered by the Apocalypse, Blaze in the Dark, and the Resistance system, which I believe is Heart and Spire from Grant Howard, as previously mentioned. And one we have streamlined from our own Demonology. The base scene will also feature compatibility guides for playing with Mortborg or Blaze in the Dark, if you would rather stick to another system. Talking of Hitchcock, says Hatching DM. Yeah, no, that absolutely was very much of that vibe. AKA right now, says Neri Magicano. Fascism ascends in Ash. On the 26th of September, 1983, Stanislav Petrov took a day off sick. Andrei Yazukov took his place in command of the Serpukov 15 missile silo, a tense but mostly quiet responsibility. Shortly after 2 a.m., an early warning sign showed 5 US missiles inbound, and Yusukov followed protocol. In a few hours, the USSR and the US had sent nuclear missiles across much of the world. In the 60s, amid a country attempting to embrace each other in the aftermath of global war and the fear of another one, William Kind prepared for the worst. The Will Kind Company has purchased 20,000 acres of Florida land to create William Kind's vision for a future city, one protected under a blast-proof bubble dome. So, yeah, a lot of inspiration going on here. We've got Cold War, we've got very cool aesthetics, we've got Under the Dome, which I believe is... oh, God, why am I so bad at names? You know the guy, the one who writes literally every horror novel that ever gets adapted. Help! Under the Dome! There's a TV show. It's got Hank Schrader in it. Anyway, so it's got loads of that. It's got a kind of interesting, like, reverse apocalyptic vibe where King, thank you, Stephen King, It's got like a reverse apocalyptic vibe where it seems like people are pretty happy that all of the big horrible corporations and cities have gone, and now they're kind of stamping out the last step. So that's kind of an interesting turn of events and different kind of way of thinking about the world. But yeah, it's also kind of reminding me of Pharaoh from Horizon and stuff like that. Very, very interesting, very cool setting. It seems like they've used kind of like public domain artworks for their illustrations, stuff like that is another thing that is really, really useful. But it also looks like we've got some illustrators who maybe haven't been commissioned just yet, but are planning to work on the project. Toto, so much of your fur is all over my face and my keyboard. Thank you for that. But yeah, looking great. Looking very, very, very cool. That is already over their goal. They've only got 5 days to go. If you want to, I don't know if they've got any stretch goals. Let's have a look. Yada bada bada. I can't see any there, but I am scrolling through quite quickly. But go have a look at that if you want to grab it before the 5 days are up. Okay, last one, and this one again, not one that is available just yet to look at their campaign, but it's going to be launching at some point soon. God's Gonna Cut You Down by Keith Stetson and Edvard Munch, Clarissa Belt Stetson, and Mamato's doing the layout, who we just spoke about. Fantastic layout artist. God's Gonna Cut You Down is a melancholic Western role-playing game, for one, inspired by the traditional folk song. Just this one little snippet of what this book is going to look like already has me excited. I love Western stuff. Anyone who knows me knows I love cowboy stuff. I go absolutely hog wild for it. So very, very excited for this. Again, this is not yet launched, but there is a notify me on launch button for the project. 122 people looking at it already. Coming in. Yeah, great title, Hatching DM. Absolutely great title. That is all of the tabs that I have prepared for myself. We are now going to jump over to Twitter to have a little look at the tweet that I sent out before. Let's look at some of the stuff that people have put down there. If you don't follow me on Twitter, that is my handle, by the way. I'm at Cube Whelan. I do make my own RPGs and stuff like that, but I can't really talk about them on streams here at work because that is a solo project that I do outside of my work here at Dicebreaker. But I play a lot of RPGs and stuff like that, so I like to talk about them on that Twitter. So we've already had Sweet Revenge from World Champ Game Company. Also, in this tweet, I'm funding Sweet Revenge. Sweet Revenge is a sinful crawl through hell, collecting the souls of the damned on the way to meet your demands from the devil. And because I saw all this text on the page when I first read that sentence, I thought that was the entire title, as I can say there, which is very funny. Let's see what else we got. We've got Contact by Jay. Okay. Jay Stratman is from Canada, and they are pushing Contact. We Are Not Alone, which looks like a alien RPG. Contact is a cosmic tabletop storytelling game where players communicate with aliens through song and tarot. First, players create a playlist together using prompts from the major arcana. Once the playlist is complete, players draw question prompts related to their characters and the aliens and answer these questions using songs from the shuffle playlist. This is really cool, really interesting. Themes vary from impending apocalypse to hopeful first contact to unavoidable tragedy. I like that you can kind of set the tone of your game as well, but still sort of talk about the same kind of subject. Based mostly on which songs the group chooses. Most prompts are celestially spooky and aim to determine why the aliens have contacted the group and what they want from the world. In the final act, the players respond to the alien communication. By the end of the game, the players are left with a story and a playlist to listen to anytime, now with new meaning. I love this. I love the idea of creating like a Spotify playlist together as you play. That's so cool. I'm seeing a lot of games kind of coming out with their own soundtracks and getting kind of indie music artists involved and doing that. But obviously the music can be linked to the kind of setting of your game or the kind of vibe that you're trying to give off of the game. But I love the idea that you can retrofit that and have that collaborative session where you're like, okay, this is the kind of music that I'm being inspired to listen to right now. Let's make a setting based on that music that we're all into. That's so cool. I love this. Thank you very, very much to Stratmas for sending that over. That looks amazing. Over on crowdfunder.com again. Really love it. Cool aesthetic as well. Great design. This looks really, really interesting. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. See what else we got. Hello, Jenna. Great idea. Great concept. Fantastic. Really, really cool, Jenna. Thank you so much for sending over. All right, let's see what else we've got. The Last Hand. So this one's not launched yet. This is a GM-less storytelling RPG about escaping an unknown creature and prioritizing your survival in the final scene. 8 followers following this one over on Kickstarter by Eric Faber. Give that one a look as well. Kyle writes, so I heard a few people talk to me about Hit the Road Jack. Oh, okay, bad language, sorry. This is a family-friendly channel. Oh, yeah, okay, right, cool, I've seen this. So, right, what is Hit the Road Jack? Hit the Road Jack is a solo duet. Actually, let's find the page, if it's already live, so I can show you off, because I've seen that cover art on the Zine Month website. There we go, Hit the Road Jack. Right, let's have a look at this rather than the Google Doc. Here we go. So, crowdfunding on itch.io. You effed up. You effed up something big. Hit the Road Jack is a solo/duet game of adrenaline rush and creeping terror of chasing and being chased, of being forced to face your sins or to leave them all behind. It is a game of cat and mouse between two characters that we call the Jacks. This is a game that mentions blood, violence, drug, crime, and death. Both deaths you choose and death you don't. Jack Be Nimble is the sinner, the criminal, and the one being chased. Jack Be Quick is the lawman, the aggrieved, and the one who chases. This is their journey cross-country across an empty stretch of highways. By drawing tarot cards and responding to journaling prompts, you'll be able to flesh out the nature of these two Jacks, their relationship, and how they deal with whatever the road throws at them. So it's solo or duet, which is kind of interesting, so you can play it with or without another player. It's variable game lengths of short, medium, and long, so you can choose how long you want to play for. 44 different prompts you can use. A narrator speaking directly to the player, characters providing not only instructions, but snark, judgment, and occasionally compassion. Really, really cool looking. Already got some fun art. I love the cover, looking great. I do like these kind of interesting looks at... it makes me think of like Mad Max and things like that. Those kind of less location-based and more kind of like themed around journeys and things like that. I've seen like a few sort of pop up around those, which has been really interesting. But this idea of like a chase, like of one player sort of hunting down the other, is really, really cool. So yeah, love it. Liking the look of it. Hit the Road Jack. Coming soon. See what else we got. Grandmother Ship by Armanda. Yeah, Cassie, you've been... Okay, hold on. Let's have a little look at Tangled Blessings. I would like to have a look at this because you've been lovely in the chat. I'd like to look at your game. Let's have a look. Everyone dry for RPG. Wait, no, that's the preview. Do we have a page? We do. Itch.io. There we go. Right, Blackroot Academy, a prestigious clandestine school of arcane, profane, and mystical arts, accepting you, and you flourished. Now you're on the precipice of graduation with only one final night to study. Tomorrow you will face your rival, an equal to you in talent and prospect, for one final exam, to determine the shape your future holds. Everything will be decided tomorrow, but tonight you have only your thoughts and memories of the 4 years in these halls. Okay, interesting. Ooh. This is actually someone's review, I believe. Yeah, by K. Ramsank. Where? How am I managing this? Where are we going? It's on Crowdfunder. Here we go. I don't know why it was so difficult for me to find that page. I apologize. I'm very, very stupid. Okay, Tangled Blessings, solo or two-player Magic Academy horror RPG. Doing really, really well. 445 or 54% of their 1.5k goal, doing amazingly. It looks like Crowdfunder's having, you know, a pretty good time of it. It seems like I think perhaps like a lot of people have kind of coalesced onto Crowdfunder, which has mean there's like a little bit of a community forming on there, which is lovely. But okay, cool. So you will be charged immediately, except for shipping. We've hit our goal, but as soon as we continue raising funds, we'll be able to print extra copies. So this is for 1 to 2 players. So again, kind of similar to Hit the Road Jack, we can play as the character and their rival on the eve of your final exam at Blackroot Academy. It's a solo journaling or two-player RPG inspired by dark academia media, ghost stories, and graduate school. The core mechanics are based on the Emmy-nominated Anamnesis game by Samantha Lay. Really, really cool. I love Sam. Sam does great work. Featuring a wizarding college Wandering spectres, assigned houses, curses, devils, bargains, and more supernatural flavour. Tangled Blessings blends horror and the fantastical to help players craft a story that spans their time at the Academy, culminating in one final showdown against their rival. And all you need is a deck of tarot cards. Love it. Love the style, love the cover, love the setting, love that presumably there are no turfs involved. Fantastic stuff. Looking great. Looking fantastic. Go and give it a look. Doing really well as well, so didn't need my help, but love to see RPG projects doing well. It is fantastic. We are going to move on now to Grand Mothership on Crowdfunder. A sci-fi TPT RPG about senior ladies in space. Oh, I saw this one and I was really interested by it. Okay, cool. So, what's happening with these lights that flicker in a way they shouldn't? Why has everyone on the ship disappeared? How come the robots on this space resort are acting up? Who has robbed all the credits from the wealthiest person in the galaxy? You're the senior ladies that will solve these problems and many more. You're the gang. A TTRPG for 2 to 4 players and 1 GM about space, horror, and senior ladies piecing together a mystery. Get in trouble and crochet a new scarf. Go ballroom dancing and find solutions where everyone else has failed. A game designed to be played as one-shot sessions. Grand Mothership is my first crowdfunding campaign, and I'm thrilled to work with so many incredible creators. So I'm assuming this is... Yes, here we go. Brindlewood Bay, right? So this game takes the stats and simplicity from Honey Heist. Senior ladies gathering clues to solve a problem from Brindlewood Bay, and its classes and loadout format, as well as vibes from Mothership. So this is a real sort of hodgepodge of interesting kind of like inspirations from the RPG world. As a disclaimer, I have nothing to do with those games. This game is not related in any way to those or their creators. So this isn't necessarily like based on those systems, but you know, the inspirations are very much wrote through the text. So, ideal to play as goofy or serious as you want. Get a session running in under 5 minutes. Focus on evading hazards, getting out of tense situations with elderly grace, using knitting needles as a deterrent, and other ways of eluding danger. Group decisions and collective development, and designed for one-shots. Really cool. Love it. Love the theming. Love the like classic sci-fi kind of vibe. We've got a video as well. Kind of flick through the pages. Got some interesting bits of art in there as well. Another one that has broken their funding goal, doing well over on Crowdfunder. Crowdfunder seems like the place to be this year. Maren McAdam says, this reminds me that I need to share Grand Mothership with a friend who would love it. Yeah, if you've seen any games on this stream or just around Zine Month in general, please do share them with people that you love. Find people that are interested in this kind of stuff and help these things get funded. Right, we've already seen Feathertales. Ah, there's Cassie. Thank you, Cassie. It's got a Hopes and Dreams of the Orbital Bound is new. Critical Hit Parader. Oh, we love Maxwell as well. We'll get some Maxwell content in here. We've also seen Mecha Concrete before. On the way to Chrysopia. I've got 4 minutes to click through these. We're going to get through them as quickly as we can. Death doesn't mean you can't write back. 4 Kingdoms. Loads of stuff here. I'm getting them on the page at least. We're getting them up. This was really cool as well. The Bastardized Classics. Which looks really fun. Those Who Gather Dust. Looks cool. We saw Morpholammancy. Okay, alright, we saw Echo. Alright, cool. Alright, we're going to go through these as quick as we can. Alright, so, sweet. Hero Catastrophe, the last survival checks of your mightiest heroes. Rules like RPG starting with your death saving throws, and you play to find out your fate. Really interesting. Reverses the whole hero's journey thing to the bit where you're already screwed, and can you get out of it? What happens then? Built with the polymorph system. Great, excellent, fantastic. TLD RPG. Lean, mean indie RPG gaming, OSR influence with high action and low crunch. Old school feel with new school mechanics. Already broken their funding goal. Cool art scale. Too long didn't read. Loads of stuff. There's already videos on this that you can have a little look. Cool mechanics. Approachable, easy to learn. D6 dice pool system. Fun character creation. Books. All kinds of cool stuff. Wow, amazing. Cassie Moffman says, Death Doesn't Mean You Can't Write Back is a vampire letter writing game. Very cool. Excellent. This is one that actually stood out to me that I wanted to highlight because, again, I'm such a magpie. That is such a beautiful cover. That is absolutely gorgeous. I saw the creation of that on Twitter announced before the month came in. But this is a sort of, especially I'm playing through Assassin's Creed Odyssey at the moment again, so that's probably inspired me to be really interested in this. But These Stars Will Guide You Home is all right. So come on then. All right, okay. Just for the last 5 minutes, you can go in baby mode. This is kind of based on the Greek myths of, Odysseus and journey through all the islands. It's got that kind of hexcrawl vibe to it. I really love Aegon, so big vibes, very cool. He's back down again. One to look out for. Hopes and Dreams of the Orbital Bound, a Dyson Eclipse slice of life sci-fi RPG. I don't know what any of that meant. Everyday moments when you just happen to live on a gigantic alien space station. It's about the challenges of living amongst the stars and breaking away from the normal to follow your dream. Very cool. Not many slice of life RPGs. Very sick to see. America's only rock and roll role-playing game. Whoa! Look at this. Critical Hit Parader. The heavy metal role-playing. Excellent. Love it. Low Res Futures. By Aaron King. So this is actually multiple games in one, I believe. 2 full role-playing games, each written by an accomplished designer. We've got Hand Baskets, which is a digitally enhanced Cyber Witch demon summoning battle royale game by Maxwell Lander. Players try to maximize their reputation, take out to the competition, and stay alive, but death is in the end. Those who fall are re-sleeved into strange and entertaining new bodies, continuing the entertainment. Love that. Cool theming. In a Mirror Brightly is a game of millenarian magical rebellion by Aaron King. Wake up from the drudgery of everyday life in 1990X and fight for the best future you can imagine. Inspired by The Invisible, The Matrix, and Mage the Awakening, players will fight the power with tech, hex, and sex. Fun fact, Mage the Awakening is the first RPG I ever played when I was very young. Didn't really understand what the hell was going on. On the Way to Chrysiopia, an epistolary. So again, this is another letter writing role-playing game. Together with a partner, you'll be writing a 4-handed adventure. First by inventing its 2 protagonists, and then by leading them on a legendary journey. Very cool. The Ink That Bleeds, this is like a little press release here. This is a journaling game. So, Write to Find Out, a writing method that supports immersion. Why writing dialogue is so effective. Bleed in of stuff from our lives into journaling game experiences. This is by Paul Shege, I believe that's pronounced as. Sege? Callum Drummond says, "Hey Mike, could you do me a favour? Could you say something in the Robert O'Cup voice? I started rewatching the Breakwest Club's adventures and I miss that guy." Callum, do not be warned. Do not be feared, for Breakwest Club will return. It will come back. Dead Letter Society, a 1 to 2 player RPG of vampires, letters, and a secret society on Crowdfunder. As Cassie said, looks sick. It's about writing letters to vampires. Very cool. 1 to 2 players. Go have a look. 4 Kingdoms, blank parchment, develop a new world in a GM-less. This is a map drawing game. Looks really cool. Lovely art. Moving on. A Butterfly Dies. The Primal Quest zine inspired by Mexican myth and the Mexican muralist movement. That's really, really cool. Absolutely beautiful covers. Look at that. Oh my god, that looks so good. This Land is Bled. There's a cool setting inspired by Mexican myth. Stuff that we don't see very often. Very, very sick. Very, very cool. Give it a look. By Marco Serrano. And then last but not least, we've got Band of the Black Wolf by S. John Bateman. A setting in Adventure OSR games that is not quite released yet. But you can have a Notify Me on launch click right there. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. This has been Dicebreaker. We've been looking at all these fantastic games here for Zine Month 2023 and Zine Quest. If you've enjoyed this, please go out, find these games that you like the look of, give them a back. 4 Kingdoms was on, Chris. Where's it gone? There we go. It was on Kickstarter. 4 Kingdoms was on Kickstarter. Storytelling and map drawing TTRPG zine. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I will see you on the next one. If you are new here, if this is the first time here on Dicebreaker, we cover stuff like this all the time. This is our bread and butter. We love RPGs. We love role-playing. We, in fact, have our own actual play show where it's called Storybreakers. It's fantastic. I GM for it. It's one of the things I'm most proud of in all of my time here at Dicebreaker. Go give it a watch if you like actual plays. We're also putting it out as a podcast at some point soon as well. So if you prefer audio, And it's great. Thank you very much for watching. Big thank you to Toto for invading the entire stream. Thanks, buddy. If you are not familiar with us, please do give us a subscribe, give us a like, click on the bell icon to get notified when we put new videos live. This Saturday, we've got a video coming out about me and Maddie going up to Warwick Castle and going to a medieval banquet to check out a new Jackbox party style game called King of the Castle, which is very close to King's Dilemma, the board game, if you've played that before, in which you got a king making decisions and then a noble court trying to influence the world around them. It's very fun, very slapstick, and you can play with like 3,000 people on Twitch, which is wild. Not to mention, we will then be streaming it the Thursday after. So loads of stuff coming up here on the channel. We've got a new episode of Storybreakers coming out tomorrow. Loads of things going on. So please do stick around. We love tabletop, and we are sort of, you know, trying to establish ourselves as a good hub for people who love tabletop stuff to come over and join us with. So thank you very much for watching. We will see you on the next one. But until then, have a lovely day. Goodbye.